Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another exciting adventure on the Meter Burn train. What's going on, guys? This is the Blacktastic, and with me, before I go get ahead of myself, is always my lovely co-host, Katie. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And we got the man of the hour over here. We're going to be talking a bit about James Chen, aka Jay Chenzer. On Twitter, of course. Give him a follow if you haven't. We're going to be talking a little bit about his background, how he got into the competitive scene, eventually moving on into commentary. And again, we're going to be talking about some Capcom-related stuff. Of course, the ultra sloppy PS4 port that we were all let down about. But again, before we get ahead there, hey, James, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
That's good.
Yeah. Been a busy past couple of weeks for me, but I'm finally settled down here and I'm ready to ready to
He's
roll.
home sweet home again.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, if it's not too much trouble, why don't you tell us what you've been doing all this time?
Oh, geez, I've just been going through a lot of craziness at home. So I live in like this multi-unit like condo complex, and one of the units on the far end ended up with termites. They discovered termites
Ooh.
there, and so our whole building had to be tented. So the last couple of weekends, I've been cleaning my home and throwing away years of expired food that have been chilling in my fridge for years. And then finally, and I had to move out, and then I finally moved back in just yesterday. So I'm back in, and it's nice to be home again. So
That's awesome.
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, can you get? Hello?
Yeah,
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
All right,
Are we
guys.
live?
Popping into the call right here is Mr. Adil, aka FourWude from DisplayLag. Again, what I was saying before is when we get into the USF4 for PS4 sort of debacle, he's gonna be here to provide a little bit of insight on what makes it so bad for competitive players to begin with. So.
Well, yeah, we're going to take a look at all of the different factors, and then what to look forward to in the future, and hopefully, what then you think after Evo we might be going back to the PS4. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
because I know everyone's practicing for it now, but hopefully we'll be.
Look, I'm sure that their goal right now is to make sure that it's playable and worthy of the competitive scene by Capcom Cup, because I'm sure
Oh
their
yeah,
goal is to play it on the PS4 at Capcom Cup.
yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
You know what? So I mean, since we're kind of heading towards this subject, let's talk about that now. Then the USF4 port for PS4 wasn't really what we expected. to put it mildly, so I don't have to bring up a synopsis. Wasn't really up to snuff. I mean, you looked at the PlayStation 4 blog was actually saying like, oh, this is going to be the definitive edition, and that term has been thrown around ever since like the Xbox One had their like HD remasters of their old games, and also the PS4 definitive editions. Which means like this is the only thing that you should probably have if you have it on that console, and nowhere else. It looked promising, really low, relatively low price tag, $24.99 gets all of the sort of what do you get, like the costumes and all that. It's updated with like Omega mode, all those
Right.
bells and whistles. But when we actually get into the game, what do we find? Let's talk about that real quick. James, you want to go ahead first with your insight on this?
I think a lot of the Guile players were happy. They
No.
had sonic booms. I mean, come on. That
I
actually
bet.
probably helped them a little bit. So,
You
but
know
I mean,
what though? I mean, wasn't the PlayStation 3 version also a little off when it comes to it being laggy? Because Deal, I know we spoke about this like the night before on the 360. It's what we would consider the standard, right? And you said it's because for some reason it ended up doing exceptionally well, even though it was what basically made the same as the PS3 version. Do you think that it's just the same with the PS4? Except I did not download it, but I heard it's a little bit worse.
Well, okay, so here's the story with how all the ports work. The PS3 version is actually closest to the arcade version. So
Okay.
the latency that is on the arcade version is very close to the PS3, and that's because, well, what I'm assuming is they're both using NVIDIA architecture. So they have a certain way to render the graphics, and I guess their target platform was PlayStation 3. But I guess when the Xbox 360 version was made, nobody really knew that it was better in terms of lag. So I guess tests came out over time, and people noticed that there was a difference. And then some videos came out, and then there's close to a 2 frame difference between the 360 and the PS3 versions. By my testing, it was about a 1.5 frames, but it's margin for error. So that makes a huge difference when it comes to the highest level of play. And at this point, people were saying that, well, PlayStation 3 is arcade perfect, and that should be the standard, which makes sense. But at the same time, we're not where we were 10 years ago.
What do you think, James?
I don't know. One of the interesting things to me was that the U.S. definitely has played a lot on 360 more than the PS3, and it's definitely the preferred one. But since the PS3 is closer to the arcade, it's always interesting to me because I always notice when Japanese players come out here, they tend to drop combos a little bit more. We've seen Daigo drop some Evil Ryu combos. I remember when who was it? It was the Elena player from Japan came out here at CEO one year, and he was dropping some Elena combos. I wonder if that just had to do with the fact that interestingly, the 360 was less lag, which was not what they were used to. If we had played on PS3, I wonder if that would have been something that they were more used to, because also in Japan, obviously the PlayStation is a more popular console. So from them going home to console, probably the transition is very smooth. But then coming to the US and playing on the 360, it might throw them off a little bit. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to find that out, that it was that the arcade was actually closer to PS3.
So how do you think that came to be? When it comes to Japanese players playing on arcades and PS3 consoles, where was the Western scene, the US, like should we have reached a middle ground to maybe centralize a platform for the most popular fighting game ever, or did we just kind of do our own thing, saying hey, it's less laggy, we're gonna play on this?
I think it was kind of twofold. One, it was less laggy, so people just kind of went towards it, gravitated towards it a little more. Also, just the Xbox 360 online was just a lot better at the time, because PS3, at first they didn't quite have the same kind of infrastructure that Xbox Live had. And Xbox Live, I remember when Street Fighter 4 first came out, it's just really easy to go play against other people. The lag wasn't that bad online and stuff like that. I mean, it's not great, but it was definitely playable and stuff like that. So most players just kind of ended up on 360, so that's where everybody went to play online against everybody. And so everybody got used to the timing of the 360, so they all demanded that would be tournament standard. That's just eventually how it ended up.
Yeah, I think that about the comment earlier about when Japanese came over here and they felt timing differences, this even extends as far as the Evo of last year. I think you guys saw the article of the Japanese Blanca player that came here, Nero Blanca.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And she had made some comments about, she actually felt that the setups at Evo were lagging, which wasn't true, obviously. But and I started to analyze that, and I'm like, maybe it's because they all play in arcades out there. And, there's also a difference with screen sizes. You have a 32-inch screen in your face, and you're coming to a smaller monitor. All those things affect your play level in a way. So, I think obviously the top 10 Japanese players, they travel here so much that they're so used to already playing on 360. But when you have the underdogs in Japan, they're going to be playing in arcade most of the time.
Well, I mean, you're even hearing that Daigo has a box TV. I don't know how true this is, but I heard that he even has a box TV at home and would even practice on that sometimes, just for timing.
I wouldn't be
stuff
surprised.
like that. You never know.
I actually heard that, and what I heard was that he plays on a CRT for online play, so that it ends up being similar to 360 on an Asus monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a small difference in timing, but like him upgrading, well, technically upgrading,
Downgrading.
downgrading, upgrading, however you want to call it. He uses that to kind of counteract the slight bit of lag that's on a monitor of like a LCD monitor versus a CRT, but it's really negligible in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah.
I mean, that's smart, though. I mean, Daigo's one of those people that he's taking his job seriously when he does a lot of these kind of things. So it's always impressive for me to hear the lengths that he goes through to make sure that he can be at optimal performing.
That's funny.
Well, actually, speaking of going, great lengths. Again, this PS4 port for USF4. Now they have been trying to rectify the mistakes that they sort of made. They released a little bit of patch for fixing some of the things, but it's highly suspecting that it might not be all the things. Where do we see like how long do you think it will actually take for the PS4 version to actually be good? Live up to like the pedestal that they were initially putting it on.
I know Adil can probably speak to the lag improvements from the recent patch, right?
Yeah, it's still not where it needs to be yet. From what I measured, the 360 version through my testing method was 5 frames. The PS4 version was 6.4, and initially the PS3 version was 6.4, and the PS4 version started out at 8 frames of lag, which is almost just over a frame over the PS3 version. Mm-hmm. So one of the stealth fixes they put in the latest patch was an input lag reduction. Okay. And that's something that we're currently interfacing with me about. And so I did the test on them on the newest patch, and it turned out to be about a 1 frame difference. So it went down from 8 to 7 by my calculations, which at the grand scheme of things
a tiny bit closer.
Yeah, but it's still about 2 frames off, and that's significant. That's about the same jump as 360 to PS3.
Right.
So,
and it's really funny too, because I mean, for people listening, we're talking frames and lag and everything. I mean, this is literally like every frame is 1/60th of a second, and it sounds almost ridiculous that we're talking in 1/60th.
Yeah, but it's like, you're right, but it's so important though.
This is unplayable. But I mean, it really makes a difference because when you build that muscle memory, a lot of those combos, like, I mean, there's obviously things like plinking and stuff and double tapping, but there's some players like Chris G who do not even use plinking. He literally just has the muscle memory of Sakura combos just burned into his hands in a way. And you throw in that 1 or 2 frames of lag, he's dropping combos all over the place, and that can mean that's a huge difference in terms of a competitive situation. So
and then you'll have button combinations that use 1 frame links, or you'll have characters that use 3 frames,
right?
For their input. I mean, and it's it all adds up, definitely.
Yeah. So as much as small as it might sound in the grand scheme of things, and it's actually one of the reasons why I think fighting games are harder to make work online than a lot of other competitive games too, is because things come down to 1/60th of a frame.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Also, on a side note, I don't know how many people know this, but with Ultra Street Fighter 4, they actually added a network simulation configuration in the training mode. So you can actually add up to 20 frames of lag on your controls, and you can do it literally by frame. So I actually encourage everyone to add like a frame or 2 or 3 frames on their as like a latency test, and you'll see how much of a difference it makes. It's pretty ridiculous how much 2 frames of a difference is. So
all right,
it's a pretty big deal.
Let's talk about this game at a grand scheme. Now, obviously, the Capcom Pro Tour was gearing to use this port of Street Fighter 4 for their sanctioned tournaments. Now, I know that the people at Capcom and High Voltage even are going to lengths to fix this. But do you?
Well, High Voltage is the PC MKX one.
Other Ocean. Sorry. Other Ocean, right? Yeah. Okay, so they're working together to rectify things, but my question to people is, do you think that the damage might have already been done? it might be fixed. It might be fixed, but you have to realize that the fighting game community. Well, first of all, I can speak for a lot of us when we say that we don't like change.
Yeah.
Especially since we've devoted a lot of this this generation, past the dark ages, on basically 360s and PS3s, right? Nobody wants to shell out nearly $500 for a console anymore, and nonetheless pay for a game that doesn't really work the way that we wanted it to. So
I think they were trying to lead up for Street Fighter V.
Yes,
which is fine. If this launch had gone off perfectly, then it would have been the perfect stepping stone on the way to Street Fighter V. But now that we feel a little bit betrayed, that might be a bit dramatic, but I mean you could basically feel the uproar from social media everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, all of that stuff. So when it finally does get, let's say, quote unquote, fixed, and we're eventually going to be transitioning to the PS4 for, that and Street Fighter V and so on, how do you think the community is going to react? Has the damage already been done or what, guys?
One of the things that I think is really tough to understand for a lot of people is probably how much pressure there was going on. A lot of people are mad at Capcom for the port for not working well. And trust, a lot of people think I have inside information because I work on, help with the Capcom Pro Tour and all this stuff.
Right.
They don't tell me anything, trust me. I wish I knew more than I did. But just judging from how the whole thing went, they had announced that the PS4 version is going to be at CEO and it's going to be at EVO. So you got to imagine they probably had some time pressure to get it out in time for those, right? So if it wasn't up to snuff, maybe at the time they were probably pressured to get it out within a specific date. Also, I'm not even sure how much Capcom was necessarily involved. I heard that Sony was the one that found Other Ocean to do the port.
Okay.
And it's really Sony's responsibility and stuff like that. So the hard part about it is, I know a lot of people went on Other Ocean's Facebook page and really yelled at them. There was a bunch of really vitriolic posts on the Other Ocean Facebook page. I know a lot of people got mad at Capcom. Some people are mad at Sony and everything. And really, honestly, I think it's no one fault in particular, and it's just probably a lot of these unfortunate business decisions just kind of reflected this way. Having said that, the port is really bad, and really, honestly, they should have just said, you know what, instead of releasing it and having it be messed up like this, they probably just should have said, you know what, we're just going to delay it a little bit.
We're going to wait a little.
Yeah, that probably would have been the better recourse. And I don't know if the damage has been done. I know the FGC is very unforgiving a lot of times. Like in the case of Cross Tekken, it was boring and then it got patched. It became a better game, but it was too late already.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if they do release a better version and they keep patching it and it gets better, I think it can come around eventually. Because the thing is, most of these people who play Street Fighter 4 are going to want to play Street Fighter 5. So, it's going to be a natural transition anyway. So at some point in time, most of these guys are probably going to have to get a PS4 at some point.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as I said, we have to eventually move on at some rate. I'm sorry, Adil, what you were saying?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, Sony and Capcom are actually very serious about making this port good. They know that they messed up. So they're just going to do what they can to get it to where it needs to be. The only issue is, obviously the next two big tournaments. And now that it's kind of out there that there are so many issues with the game, it's kind of at the point where you just cannot risk it at a competition that big. Even there were bugs and glitches, and that's the only ones we know of. What if something were to pop out in a high level match at the tournament? You just can't risk it at that point. So I think they made the best decision when it comes to switching, and they're just going to keep working on it until they get it right, and hopefully it'll be right by Capcom Pro Tour. So we'll see what happens at that point.
And this isn't necessarily even the first time something like this has happened. I know with Injustice, the guys that were actually working on it knew that there were more things that they wanted to work on and change and fix and update, and they were supposed to have a checkpoint and then the release date. And when it went to the higher ups, and they said, "Hey, we're going to change it. We want it to go out now." And those
Right.
guys were like, "Holy crap! We have to put this out this second." And then they ended up putting it out, and there were all kinds of like you said, patches and things. I
I
think
don't
at some
really.
point, sometimes patches can even help make things a little bit better because really, at the end of the day, all of us together are the best testers for this stuff. We'll find everything that's broken in the game and complain about it either way. But this many mistakes.
I'll agree. I'll agree
it's
with you
kinda
to some
different.
extent
Yeah.
there, Katie. But the thing is, it's like, okay, when it comes to like Injustice and like the Mortal Kombat's, like little things here and there.
Right,
Like
yeah.
block string infinites for one thing. That's I want to say that's a completely different thing than just saying, hey, we have this port, but it has really slow and jaggy menus and invisible fireballs, and when ultra animations go off,
Yeah.
it completely passes through the other character.
Yeah.
You have to think and wonder, like, did these guys do any sort of
Was there any
extensive
check at all?
testing? Did they really go into like training mode for, I would say, even 5 minutes before something was wrong with that port?
Yeah.
Like how much care actually went into the porting from from Other Ocean?
I mean, that's the hard thing too. Is just that, like, I mean, some of these bugs, like you said, are just blatant. Like,
Yeah.
I think Capcom and Sony realize how embarrassing this release is, because, I mean, to basically say, you know what, okay, CEO Evo, you can run it on any console that you want, and both of them went back to the 360, and that's completely flying in the face of where their future plans are, trying to head towards the Sony platforms and stuff like that. But obviously, they have no choice because they know how bad this port is. So. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what though? I mean, still at the same time, they can. Everybody, even the TOs, we are all forced. If they put their foot down and say, "Hey, Street Fighter V is only going to be on PS4," either way, no matter what, everybody's going to have to get PS4s. So if that is released before this is, at ultimate level, of being fixed, we're all going to have to buy the PS4 anyways, even the TOs and everybody else, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even just for people to play Xrd, Guilty Gear Xrd, for example, they're already buying, PS4s and PS3. I mean, I guess it is on PS3 as well, but a lot of fighting games are moving towards, PS4 exclusivity and stuff like that. So, I just feel like it's just a natural progression. I mean, it's going to happen. That's just the nature of console gaming, right? I mean, the only way to kind of future-proof it maybe is just to go PC version, because that way, obviously, once you have a controller works on a PC, it's always going to work on a PC. But even, with Ultra Street Fighter 4, they try to use the Lab Zero driver. And I hope they do the same thing for Street Fighter V, which would be really nice if they make it so we can use our PS3 sticks on there and stuff like that. It sounds like they're trying to be accommodating. I mean, obviously I'm trying to give them a benefit of the doubt here and everything like that. But, time will tell to see how that's going to go. But again, just if you're a console gamer, I mean, geez, I've been playing video games since I was 5. So let me tell you, I've been playing video games for a very long time. But, just... that's just the way it works. You always have to upgrade consoles eventually. Yeah, it just happens. So,
Bobby, how long have we been using the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360? About 7 years, right?
Yeah, 7, 8.
It's been about that long. Yeah,
6 years, I think. Yeah.
6. Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, it's about time, but we don't want to spend our money.
I mean, really, when it comes to the past console generation and competitive fighting games, we're not only talking about Street Fighter 4. We're talking about fighting games dating back to like Dead or Alive 4. There were actually big events, sanctioning the Xbox 360 as the only console you want for Dead or Alive 4. And that's completely fine. So that the gaming community for Xbox 360 has been, really strong after all these years, and now it's like we got a Switch. It's
yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because like the Dreamcast was that way before, right? The Dreamcast was like the system to play on because CVS2 and MVC2 were so good on there.
Yep.
And then once we went to the 360, I guess that transition was just a little smoother because the Dreamcast, I mean, as great of a console it was, hardware-wise, it wasn't very well made. And you know, that thing broke all the time, and then like the controller ports would short out, so that, you know, a lot of the times the MVC2 players, it would pause on them and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people were okay with the transition to 360, mostly because the Dreamcast was kind of a faulty hardware. But in this case, it's rough because the 360 and the PS3, they feel fine. You know, it doesn't feel like it's ready to move on to the next generation just yet, but you know, it's going to have to happen at some point.
Well, I know one thing's for sure. My 360 here sounds like it's ready to freaking blast through the roof. It's like every time I turn it on, it's like you can hear it. It's just like ready to go. I'm like, oh my God. I just hope it's not going to like cause fire and everything else one day. You'll hear.
Yeah, you're always paranoid about it burning down your house.
Oh my God. This thing's like ready to blow. I swear.
James, you mentioned earlier that some of the developers for fighting games on the PS4 wanted to accommodate by using the Lab Zero driver that allows people to use their PS3 sticks on PS4. Now, the thing about that is that when Lab Zero and etc. were developing Skullgirls Second Encore, which they still are, it's yet to be released.
Right.
They released a YouTube video showcasing, and this was after some very wide speculation as to why other companies and developers did it this way. For those of you who don't really know, if you can use your PS3 controller on, like, was it MKX in another game? It wasn't Guilty Gear.
So far it's just Ultra Street Fighter 4 and MKX.
Okay,
right now.
yeah, all right. So yeah, Ultra Street Fighter 4 and MKS. So
and Skullgirls.
yeah, obviously Skullgirls, but the thing about using the Lab Zero driver with Ultra Street Fighter 4 and Mortal Kombat is that it just seems that there has to be so many hoops that you have to jump through when your controller still has to be synced in order to use this, which would be fine in a home setting. But when you're talking about moving, what we've been talking about for the past 15 minutes, moving on to the next console generation, making way for that generation of fighting games on this certain platform, it's a mess.
It's inconvenient.
It's a hella inconvenient mess. But Lab Zero Games, Mike Z himself put out a YouTube video saying, "Hey, I don't know why these guys are having you do this when you play our game, Skullgirls Second Encore. You can just plug in a stick and it just works fine." Do you guys have like any speculation or theories as to why this is happening?
It's interesting. We had Mike Z on Ultra Chen TV just a while ago to do some Skullgirls stuff, and I mean, he just showed us that you just plug the controller in. With the PS4 controller, obviously you have to get to Skullgirls first. So as soon as you turn on Skullgirls, then you plug in the PS3 sticks. You can unplug the PS4 stick, and everything worked fine. Right. I don't know what's going on. I heard with MKX, and it might be the same reason for Street Fighter, that it had to do with like profiles being tied to certain controllers, and so in other words, to play two players, you have to have two controllers plugged in and have the profiles tied to the controllers and stuff like that. But you know, Mike said that you don't have to do it that way, and in fact, I think they're starting to try to write up a bunch of instructions like to send to people that explain to them how they're doing it so that they don't need to do that kind of stuff anymore. So I don't know, maybe MKX and Ultra Street Fighter 4 can get patched eventually so that it's not so convenient. But right now it is kind of frustrating because you could even see it at tournaments for MKX. You see people desyncing their controllers all the time and stuff like that. Right. So
I actually have a lot of frustration with that. Because I actually experienced this the week before MKX came out. We got the game early here, and then we were playing it, and then we encountered this issue, and it looked so bizarre to me. I was like, why are we having two controls ending up on the same character all the time? And we didn't understand what was going on. We thought it was because we didn't have a day one patch or something. So we're like, okay, maybe this will get fixed day one. But I tweeted Ed Boon about it, but I never got a response. And I was like, why is this happening? Because at the time, no one had the game, so we didn't know why. And it was kind of upsetting to see Ultra also follow the same path. And it also kind of gets me worried in general because The PS4 actually has some issues when it comes to syncing up too many controllers. Actually, I have a funny story from yesterday. I was at MKX tournament, and my friend's PS4 was there. And even though I desynced all the controllers from the devices menu, it kept popping up with a message saying there's too many USB Bluetooth devices connected. It just kept popping up on the top left side the whole time, and I was like, "This is weird. I've never seen this happen before."
Huh.
So I'm just kind of worried about that happening at a major level. I just wish that there was a way to just use your PS3 sticks without the pad being on at all. Because even though the pad is connected through a wired connection, I think the Bluetooth module is still engaged while syncing up to the system. So that can cause some issues and interference, I think, at some point. But this is just speculation, you know. So far, we haven't had a huge issue, but it might happen.
Well, time will tell. You know, we just have to see.
This is the worst part about it. It's just speculation and just waiting.
Well, like you said, though, the interesting thing is that the Skullgirls, you don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to do any of that stuff. So hopefully they get word from there. It's what the one positive, though, to take away from all of this, though, is that they are trying to use the driver. So they are trying to make it so that, let's put it this way. It is inconvenient right now to use the PS3 sticks, but what if there was no driver? Then we'd all be having to buy PS4 sticks right now, right? So as inconvenient as it is, it's still saving us money. So, you know.
It's a step in the right direction,
I'm just thinking, you know, we were always complaining about how brackets are running late and things are taking too long. And then we finally got on a schedule. Like, for the most part, we got the tournaments under control. And now we're going to be completely out of control again. It's going to be, like, really late.
Yeah.
Mass chaos.
Yeah, hopefully, I don't know if it's going to be one of their goals to try to fix it so that they can make it so that it works like Skullgirls does, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully that is something that they're thinking about. So
Good.
and hopefully they get it working before Street Fighter V, because if Street Fighter V does want to be able to use that driver as well, it would be nice if it worked smoothly as well. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure that with all the issues that came out with this port of 4, that they're taking all the criticism to heart and going to apply it to 5, I think. Even though the controller issue is not really their fault, but I think that because so many people hate the process, it's going to be fixed, hopefully. So it'll just make tournaments go so much smoother. Because right now, it's so much time is being wasted. I think at least an hour out of the whole tournament schedule is just on setting up PS4s all the time.
Right.
So...
yeah, you have to figure if we really do move into this generation where there's only Xbox Ones and PS4s, that means I'm gonna have a PS4 on every on almost every tournament setup. Which means if I want to get, it's probably hell for people trying to get casuals in. You know, just moving from one to another, just syncing, desyncing. You're probably spending more time doing that than getting some experience in before your first match.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually removed the battery from my controller.
That's a good idea.
I just don't want to deal with it. So you can actually use the DualShock 4 without the battery in it. When you plug it into a USB port, it just kind of lights up and you press the home button. Then
that's
nice. It turns off.
There was actually, I can't remember what year it was. There was one Evo where before Evo started, we actually grabbed a whole bunch of PlayStation 3 controllers, opened them up, and ripped the batteries out of every single one of them so we could use them for like Tekken or something like that. And I remember sitting there for like hours just like taking batteries out of PlayStation 3 controllers. So for that reason. So yeah, it's good to know that you can do that with PlayStation 4 as well. But then obviously you've got to turn your controller into a wired controller, which can be annoying in its own way. So
I don't really trust wireless devices myself, but that's just me. All right, guys. Well, let's head off of this depressing subject, and for lack of better
there
words,
could be some light down the road. Hopefully it'll all work out. So yeah.
Hopefully it all works out. Let's talk about Street Fighter V now. Now, I heard in the chat that Ono tweeted that he was coming. Hopefully bringing Street Fighter V. What do you guys think? What are your expectations for a newer build? Are we probably gonna see new characters, new gameplay mechanics, an explanation of these said mechanics, or what? I
feel like personally that I hope with E3 coming around the corner that we just get this giant like flood of information. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that's the case because I guess they just announced that it will be playable at E3. So now I'm trying to find my way to E3, you know, because it's right around the corner from me. But it's going to be playable at CEO. So I got to imagine it's going to be playable at Evo. It's going to be playable at the Japan Expo in France or something like that. So I mean, I hope we get a bunch more information. I hope at least the 4 characters are playable because if it's just Ryu and Chun-Li, oh, come on, give us some more, dude.
I think there'll be some new
more.
characters announced. I'm actually excited for E3. I'll be over there.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
you know, hopefully we'll get to see some new characters, and I'll get my hands on with the game there.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
That'll be interesting. Hopefully they just bring out Akuma so I can just get my hands dirty.
Yeah,
He's probably gonna be like the last reveal.
Yeah, I'm just kind of hoping that's just gonna be like, oh, by the way, here's E3. Here's 4 more characters. You know?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It would make sense though. You know, the game isn't that far away. It seems like it's coming out in about a year or so.
Really?
So yeah, technically, isn't Amazon says that they have it for sale spring of 2016, right?
Yeah.
Capcom officially announced that it was going to be out within this fiscal year,
Okay.
which ends April 2016. So, you know, maybe it'll come out, but you know how game delays always happen. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I don't.
You never know.
Well, historically, we're looking at, let's see, the Vanilla Street Fighter 4 came out February, I think. Super came out, I think, April.
Okay.
And another version came out, I think, closer after that. I forgot which one it was. I think Arcade Edition or 2012. I think those were in the summer. So they usually launch Street Fighter games around the same time frame. So Ultra was June also.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that all goes.
I know a lot of the summer release ones were to try to get it out in time for Evo, you know, so, but hopefully, yeah, because Street Fighter V would be nice to release around February or March or April because that will give a lot of time for people to get good at the game before it shows up at Evo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like last year, you know, you had Ultra come out in June.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, oh,
Evo was like the
it's a
most
short period of time.
random results for like such a high caliber tournament because no one knew really what was going on, you know?
Right,
You had Daigo not even make it even close to top 8.
But that's what makes it exciting, though. You know, people don't learn all their little tricks and things. It's so new. It's anybody's game at that point in time, you know?
Yeah.
No one's had time to perfect any Akuma vortexes.
I know, right? No, but seriously, everyone was salty at Evo. Everyone. Like, everywhere you turned, there was someone upset. Every top player, like, at least you have 50 top players there, right? I think 25 of them were upset.
Right.
So,
All right. Buffalo Knight actually asked, what characters do you want to see that weren't previously announced besides Akuma? Deal?
well, I'm biased, so I have to say Akuma. But I'm pretty sure Alex is gonna make it in. I think I just feel like he is.
So.
There's too much hype and too many solid rumors about it.
And wasn't there a billboard of him somewhere in Japan like a year ago or something?
It was. I think it's hidden in Street Fighter 4. Apparently, it's
There's a billboard in the background. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but in a game called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, there is a picture of Mega Man in one of the stages. So take what you will with a grain of salt.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean an actual legitimate billboard of him in Japan itself.
Okay.
That's what I mean. That's what I saw a picture of it on Facebook like a year or so ago. But
Okay.
yeah, who knows?
let's hope El Fuerte is deleted though. I don't want to see that shit.
I will not argue that at all. So,
James,
I mean,
what are your predictions, man?
I mean, obviously, I would like Cammy in there, but you know, that's my Akuma bias. You know, my analog there. But you know, I really would like to see a lot of new characters. It would be really cool. I know, like, for example, Ultra David has always said, like, rather than bring back Zangief, bring back a new character who plays like Zangief. Like, we've seen these characters enough. But I don't know. I always think it's kind of risky, like, from a marketing perspective, to create brand new characters. Like, it really took Street Fighter 3 versions before everybody kind of finally got used to all the characters. Because I remember that game first came out, everyone was like, what the hell are all these weird characters and stuff? So It's I think it'd be smart to bring back a lot of the old characters. Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I would like to see Armika.
Mm-hmm.
Always liked Armika. Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, probably Cammy is like the number one character I'd like to see come back for obvious reasons. So
Yeah.
Is anyone
I mean, I think too, like you guys said, it's a familiarity of, seeing these traditional characters, and you feel like almost like, it's almost like an at home kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is this going to turn into Tekken, where there's 10 billion characters and you have to learn all these matchups, and it's like, oh my God, And I understand they want to keep all their old characters, but they want to introduce all these new ones, and then you're caught
Yeah.
with too much, It's crazy.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of the old characters that I don't know if they necessarily need to bring back. Of course, any character that I name, there's going to be fans that are going to be like, "What are you talking about, James?" So, but I mean, for the most part, I would like to see a lot more new characters, because I just think it would be cool to see a lot new fighting styles and just just to shake things up a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think Capcom can take that risk now, because with Street Fighter 4, they didn't really have that option because they were just still trying to recreate the fighting game market, which they were successful in doing. So now it's like it's a sustainable genre again. So now they can make some more. I think they can take some more risks now. Yeah, like kind of like what they did with Third Strike. At the end of the right before the crash happened, it's like Third Strike came out, and if I remember correctly, people hated that game. Yeah. And then over time, they just realized that this game's pretty cool. It took a while. Mm-hmm. But I think now the demographics are different. Now it's like, they either like the game or they don't, and if they don't like it, then that's it. The game's done. So we'll see where that goes. I'm actually surprised they haven't shown Ken yet.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of interesting. So, but you gotta feel like he's gotta be there. But I don't know, like, do we really want all three of those Shotos back again? I know you want Akuma back, but
I think Ken's is a given. There's no way they're gonna make it without Ken.
I mean, come on, he has a wife and a kid. Maybe he's going on being a family man.
Man, once you go down that road, you can't come back. You can't just stop.
The one interesting one to me is like they've introduced Charlie now. But at the same time, I feel like Guile has to be in the game then. Like, even though Guile is the same, but story-wise, like, how could you have this Bison Charlie story kind of culminating and Guile be missing? Like, I feel like Guile's got to be playable as well.
Yeah.
He has to be there to tie up loose ends, so to say.
Right. Exactly. So I feel like he's going to show up somehow, but we'll see.
You know what I kind of... what I kind of wanted to see in Street Fighter V is kind of like that whole Mark of the Wolves approach. You know how they just kind of drastically changed the look of characters and just gave it like this new feel. Have Ken come in like his dress slacks or something. Just something interesting. Like, I don't know, that'd be kind of cool, I think.
Bison has gray hair and Charlie's a zombie now. So I mean,
pretty much anything can happen.
Even if you look at Ryu, he looks older.
Yeah.
Chun-Li looks the same.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always going to have her look, good.
You got to keep them thighs thick. I'm sorry.
But I mean, you can definitely tell they're trying to shake it up a little with like the more cinematics, and the noodles on the head, and the noodles didn't fall off her head.
Right.
I'm like, drop the bowl, God, they got to fix that or throw it. Throw it like a frisbee.
Oh, there we go. Our interactables right there.
Yeah, interactables. There you go.
The noodle bowl is actually Kate's secret cosplay for you.
That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah, because I have the dress too. I could totally.
Just like super glue it to your head and stuff.
That's funny.
Well, hey, as we're still rolling on with Street Fighter V, Mr. Keebler actually asks, how would you all feel about various variations a la Mortal Kombat X? Feels like more of an expanded versions of alpha-isms. I wouldn't mind a smaller roster if I can play an aerial dive kick, specializing Cammy, or a strong neutral game. And what do you guys feel about that? Do you think we can dive back into like how Alpha had it?
I would like it. I think. Well, judging based on MKX so far, I think right now MKX at the current level of play, it's kind of gravitated to one style per character, with the exception of a few characters like Sonya. But I think a large reason for that is because of the way the game is right now. It's more like setup based, whereas Street Fighter is more of like a neutral, slower game. So I think the variations would actually be more useful in a game like Street Fighter.
I mean, the interesting thing to me is like games like Alpha and CVS2. It wasn't. I mean, the grooves and the isms were universal, right? The nice thing about MKX is that the variations are character specific, which is really cool. I mean, I love what Mortal Kombat did with the variations. I think it's a great idea.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see variations in Street Fighter V, but not, universal mechanics like, oh, this is the custom combo. I'd like to see it how they did in MKX, where it's literally character specific. Like, okay, you like Cammy with Tiger Knee Cannon Strikes. Here's the Tiger Knee Cannon Strike version, but let's weaken some other areas, take away some other things so she loses stuff. I think that would be great, because the best thing about it is, I mean, we've seen this a few times in Mortal Kombat already in tournaments, where you see two people play against each other and one guy gets bodied and then he just switches to another variation, and he can make a comeback all of a sudden, and you don't have to learn a completely brand new character. You know what I mean? It's just like small, subtle changes, and I really think that's helpful. Just basically, when you learn one character, you've kind of learned three already. And that's, I think, is a huge benefit to that kind of style. So I really love the variation concept. I really like it.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Because I'm also the type of player where I just pick one character because I love that character's design, and I just don't want to switch my character just because this character has a better tool. I just rather have 3 styles or however many styles just to pick the style for me. Like with MKX and Scorpion, he has a rushdown style, he has a zoning style, and he has like a more footsie style. Granted, the other 2 are stronger than the footsie style, but it's you can kind of pick and choose for matchups, and I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, that was really interesting because I remember watching at Texas, Hellfire Scorpion. I didn't even consider. I considered him like to be the weakest one, and then I saw you using him, and I was like, dude, this works. This is really cool.
Oh yeah, no, like 'cause when I was experimenting with him, I was like, this is the strongest style by far. Everyone was playing Inferno because it gave big damage, but Hellfire is just so solid. You're pretty much looking at like an able style of getting in, because you'd have like a down 4 that cancels, goes in, you get
Right.
and you can't get out of it. It's literally like plus 20 or so on run cancels, so you can't even mash an armor out. Right. So it was really useful. When I played Justin with it, he was like, damn. he was pretty surprised at it because he knew about it already, but he didn't know it was that strong.
Right.
And so I think right now it's interesting how that comes out, especially at the early life of the game, how the game evolves.
Most definitely. Because as we've seen across many Capcom fighters, that like not even the most familiar characters that we all know and love had like different move sets. I mean, if you look at Chun-Li in Third Strike, she had actual non-charged moves. It's it could be sort of that thing that
change up.
Yeah, it could be maybe a directional change up, or it could like James Chen was saying, like increase the strengthen the properties of one move while weakening the others. It is a bunch of speculation, but it's really fun to theory craft, because the success of variations in Mortal Kombat X just kind of keeps me hopeful for different flavors and different play styles in future games. I mean, you can change up your styles or variations or whatever the hell they want to call it, but like Adil only wants to play Akuma, that's fine. You can still play Akuma. A lot of people who play fighting games are character loyalists. So,
I mean, I'd love to see Vega be a lot more aggressive. It's like some version where I can actually like get in and not like just stand back and constantly worrying about like pokes and distance and
yeah.
I mean, so far it seems like they are shaking things up a little bit. I mean, like when we first saw like all the footage of Street Fighter V, it looked pretty much like, okay, this is very similar to Street Fighter 4. But as they keep releasing things like the Bison trailer, they showed him like head stomping people off the ground, and then like they keep releasing these little character cards. The Capcom Fighters keeps tweeting them out, and when I watched them, like they show little animations, and Charlie and Ryu had like these chain combos and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like I have this feeling that what we've all seen so far is probably really, really like outdated. So that's why I'm like super excited for E3. I'm just expecting like the game just all of a sudden come out and just like, hopefully we'll see even at least another background,
Well, and actually building on that, I just remembered how L.I. Joe was saying something like he thought that there was going to be an element to each character. Do you remember this? And maybe that's what we're thinking of, like how in Mortal Kombat you can switch between 3 different styles, 3 different maybe elements, or even like cross tech and the gems, except you don't buy the gem, they're just there.
Yeah, I mean, so far it seems to me like everyone has like a charge up mode. It almost seems like Killer Instinct, like an instinct trait, because it looks like Ryu charges up with lightning, and then Chun-Li does the water thing. I don't know what Charlie does, but then all of a sudden he can teleport, and Bison looks like he gets like even more psycho power or something like that. But it definitely feels like there's this thing where every character has the ability to power up. And maybe you're right. Maybe there's a lot of different ways that you can power up, and they're only showing one for each. Just to
maybe that's almost like the run option in Mortal Kombat now.
Right.
You have to power up to run.
I think the run mechanic is one of the smartest things they did to that game. When we started playing it, because I started playing with a lot of my MK9 team. We have a lot of really strong MK9 players, and they are like, man, the movement sucks. It's like terrible. Like we don't know how to move anymore, because they were all used to dash blocking. And then when they got used to it, it like got the same feel of the dash blocking without the negatives of it. It's like a cost associated. And now you actually have to look at your stamina. Like when I'm doing run counts with a Scorpion, I have to look at stamina. And then if I use the stamina even a little bit, my breaker's gone. So it's like you have to make these decisions now. And it just kind of adds to the game, I think. I just hope focus attack is gone.
Oh, man. I don't like that.
I don't like that.
Well, focus attack to me feels a lot like it's the Street Fighter 4 thing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's gone, because I mean, honestly, I like Street Fighter 4. I think Street Fighter 4 ended up in a really good place. I really like Ultra, but I don't want Street Fighter 5 to play anything like Street Fighter 4. I want it to be a different game. I like it when it's different. So, a lot of the Smash Melee fans don't like Smash Wii U. A lot of Guilty Gear XX players don't like Xrd and stuff like that. I don't like that mentality. If the game plays different, that's good. If I want to play a Street Fighter 4 game, I'll go back to Street Fighter 4 and play that. So I hope Street Fighter 5 is very different. So I hope there's no focus attack or anything like that in there.
Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about longevity when it comes to Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 obviously coming out soon. Will you think that this or next year's Ultra Street Fighter 4 tournament at let's say EVO will be its last hurrah, or can it sort of prosper?
I think it'll prosper, but it'll be kind of like the side game, I think. But I think it'll still get good turnouts for at least maybe another year or so, until Street Fighter 5 fully fleshes out. They get the bugs fixed, the game is balanced pretty decent. I think people would just play both games, because at this point Street Fighter 4 is second nature. Like you don't even have to think about it at this point. You just know how to play it. So I think it still has some life left in it.
Yeah, there'll always be side tournaments, for that.
I don't think it's going to go away right away, but it will definitely start. You'll probably start seeing it decline, because right now every year it just keeps growing, right? I mean, I think one of the cannons tweeted out that looks like it's going to be over 2,000 people at EVO. I think last year it got to 1,900, so to get over 2,000 would be pretty crazy. But I mean, once Street Fighter 5 comes out, you're going to start seeing that number drop, and as Street Fighter 5 keeps growing, it'll continue to drop, and it may go away eventually and just become one of those quote retro games,
Right.
But I can't wait till Street Fighter V comes out, because then what's going to happen is that all the Street Fighter 4 fans are going to complain and be like, "Why did they do this in Street Fighter V? It was so good in Street Fighter 4." Just like how everyone complained about Street Fighter 4, you know? Why is it like this, not like ST, you know? So
I feel like Street Fighter 5 and 4 is going to be the classic ST Third Strike situation. I think that now Street Fighter 4 has become the ST now. That is the game that all the pros know. They know every nuance. They know every matchup. You know, that's just the bread and butter now. If you just want to see the solid play come out of the player, you're going to see it in that game. Street Fighter 5 is like the more fun, the more edgy, like new game, which takes some time to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll exist nicely together, actually.
Or it could be some sort of a, no, I don't want to say miracle, but random instance where Street Fighter 5 maybe might suck, and then we'll just move on to with Street Fighter 4. It could be like a Smash Brothers Melee sort of thing. 15
My
more
whole
years.
thing is I can't imagine Sony pouring all that money into Capcom and them putting out something that and I know you guys are thinking, oh well, they just released this patch that was, you know, not optimum, but I think with Street Fighter 5, Sony's putting in a lot of funds into this.
Oh yeah, and we all know that
Yeah.
Capcom is focused on that. You know, they have dimps working on it. Other people.
And actually, maybe that's the reason why they really had to outsource it, rush it, get it out. You know, because all of their focus is going towards Street Fighter 5, and actually, maybe that was also the reason why people were saying with Injustice, a lot of the focus was going towards Mortal Kombat 10.
right.
You know?
I
They can't do it all.
Weirdly enough, I think one of the best things that happened to Street Fighter V was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Like, because that came out, and that, I mean, there's a perfect example of a game that came out and just went away because nobody.
I really liked that game. I did.
I know.
really liked
Like
that
every time I
game.
talk to David, he really loves
When
that
Vega
game.
and Rufus were good, my one buddy and I, oh my god, we had so much fun playing that game. Yeah.
But I mean, there was definitely a lot of mistakes that were made, like the gems concept, you know, just like the DLC on disc. A lot of they ran into a lot of things, and I think they learned a lot of lessons from that game. And I think that's going to benefit Street Fighter V a lot. Because can you imagine if that game didn't come out? Maybe Street Fighter V would have been the one with all the gems and like DLC and all this craziness. And then, yeah, maybe it would have come out and sucked, you know. But in a way, Cross Tekken, the problems that game had, hopefully were good learning lessons for Capcom, and Street Fighter V won't suffer from a lot of those kind of things. Hopefully they just concentrate on making a good fighting game, you know, instead of trying to, you know, squeeze all the money out of us with DLC gems and stuff like that. So
I agree. I think that Cross Tekken was an excellent experiment for them. It kind of showed them what they can and can't do and what we're receptive to. And I think everything they're doing from that point is going to reflect on what we like as the consumer. So I think Cross Tekken was a good experiment, and of course I think Omega Mode was actually an experiment too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
oh my gosh.
they're like, okay, well, we're just going to go with this. We know no one's going to take it seriously, so we're just going to try some things and see what people think. And they probably are going to implement some things from, you know, Omega Mode onto Street Fighter V. You never know.
Right.
So I think Omega Mode actually did not have input shortcuts in it. Like you could not.
It didn't.
You could not mash DPs or anything, and I was like, what? And like, it's so crazy how when you play Street Fighter 4 for so long and you're accustomed to doing a DP a certain way, I could not get a DP out in Omega Mode. I was like, man, I suck. Like, I cannot do a proper DP anymore.
It's that autocorrect.
Dude, I go to like other games, and I can't uppercut anymore. I feel like such a scrub, but
I know, right?
Yeah, and you know, also what you mentioned, they also put in the input buffering, the you know, the one frame links in Street Fighter 4 everyone complained about. I think in Omega Mode they actually repeat button inputs so that one frame links were a little bit easier. I don't know the exact technical, like how many times they repeat it, but yeah, one frame links are a lot easier in Omega Mode, and I'm sure they were experimenting with that as well. So
oh yeah, like man, yeah, Omega Mode was pretty crazy.
Hey, they probably could be going the NetherRealm route and just saying, hey, we have an option if you want input shortcuts or this input buffering. Like, you could do like there a lot has to be done to accommodate not just the casual competitives, but like those with physical special needs and all of that. With customizing inputs, macros, and all that. So a lot of care has to be taken. So maybe they might throw in a few bells and whistles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great because I personally play MKX with all of the shortcuts and stuff turned off. It's just nice to have the option, like it's okay. Well, the casuals can play with whatever is there, and for people like me, is that we can tweak it to our liking. I think tweaking is important.
Yeah, there's like one combo that I try with Lackey Tor, with the Lackey variation of Fair Tor, where I try to do a neutral jump punch, and I blink both of the punch buttons. But if there's like a branch interactable or something like that, like he grabs the branch instead and flies off there, and it like ruins my combo. And then I was like, wait, I can turn off input shortcut, and I did. And now I can do those combos consistently. So yeah, having those kind of options is really nice. They should always try to make it as customizable as possible.
Oh yeah, and even with Scorpion's run cancels, like if I had those shortcuts on, I would get so many bad inputs. They just have to be precise to do them, and I'm just glad that I have the option to disable it. So,
I have a very interesting question from Buffalo Knight. Not really sure on what he means by this, but he says the FGC is experiencing a growth in popularity, not unlike poker in the early 2000s. Would you like to see the community stay on its current course, or do you feel it needs to re-examine itself and change direction to be more or less mainstream? I'm assuming like there's always the talk about esports this, esports money, sponsorships, and everything, and since we're getting a lot more numbers, as you were saying for like even the Evo attendance, spectators, and competitive players alike, what do you think needs to be done in order to kind of change our appearance, or do we even need to at this point?
I mean, from my perspective, one of the things that I've always tried to do as a commentator is just to try to get more people into the game. So like whenever me and David do commentary, we try to gear it towards, make sure that we help beginners, because a lot of times when we have streams on, a lot of the people watching are new, right? The one thing I don't want to have happen, though, is that I do not want us to lose our personality. Like a lot of people have been talking about, there's this debate recently about like having the commentators pumped over the audience and then putting players into soundproof booths and stuff like that. I don't ever want soundproof booths. You know what I mean? I don't want that, because I like the direct interaction between players and the audience. And
You think there would be a rule that they have to wear headsets then?
Yeah, see, I would prefer that to a soundproof box for sure.
Yeah.
I like the fact that, because like you go to a lot of esports events, and maybe it'll be different if, players get super famous and, something happens or anything like that. But I like the fact that, most of the time the FGC, even the top players, are just mingling in the audience with everybody. You know what I mean? That you're just walking around and you run into Justin Wong and you're like, hey, Justin, and I like that kind of thing. I also like the hype, I like the trash talking attitude of the fighting game community. Obviously we need to keep it to a level where it's just trash talk and not being like disrespectful, misogynistic, or racist or something like that. But one of the example, I've talked with Mike Ross about this a lot, but one of the best examples, do you guys watch basketball a lot? Inside the NBA on TNT, like you watch that and all they do is talk smack to each other. They make memes all the time, and they haven't sanitized themselves to be popular. They're still like entertaining. Like they created the go fishing meme and they talk trash to each other and all this stuff like that. You can absolutely maintain the personality and still be, quote, professional about it. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to see the fighting game community get to a point where it's like super clean and like super friendly and like
also super censored.
Yeah, it's just it's not who we are. And so if it was going to go that way, I would probably try to keep it from happening. So
I mean, I think even in the last since Vanilla, we've experienced a lot of change in that short period of time. An influx of so many people I got involved going to the tournaments in 2010, and from what I saw at the tournaments from 2010 until now, it's for me it's huge. You know, a huge difference.
Yeah.
But then when people are telling me what happened even the years before that, it's a world of difference. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, with the amount of people and the different venues and how they're set up and things like that now, it's just, and I think it's going to get more and more, like you said, it's going to be a little bit more politically correct, because also we're going to start having TV stations that are going to be airing this kind of stuff, probably at some point in time. And they're not going to want people to be like, you know, even though I want to see people throwing their sticks, I love that stuff, but you can't have that, unfortunately, and
I
you know,
wouldn't say we can't necessarily, because even when you watch poker broadcasts and you've seen people like lose out to bad beats, like sometimes they'll get mad and like slam a chair or something like that. It's on TV, right? And that kind of stuff. I think that's just part of the personality. I mean, obviously, it's just you're gonna have to censor out the swear words and everything. But I like I said, I like the personality of the FGC. That's one of the things I don't want to go away at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think we actually have an excellent sweet spot of where we're at right now. I think a lot of the rowdiness is like lowered than what it used to be, but it's also still engaging and still fun. I think actually the issue is, corporations just need to understand that. Because they're only used to the esports thing. They're used to, having the players way above, like the top players way above the regular players, isolations, like really quiet, nice. They're not used to seeing the way we do things. And I
Yeah.
think that when they become accepting towards it, they'll just have their way of marketing it and just working with it, and then everyone will be happy. I mean, because you have stuff like WWE that's on TV, and obviously we're not at that extreme of content, but I think we have like this nice middle ground. It's like not professional sports, but not boring either. It's like that nice sweet spot. So I would like to see that maintained, because I think that would be important to keep our identity.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why, like in the past, I know a lot of people know this about me. I've always been like anti-joining MLG and anti-esports or whatever like that. Mostly is just because when you get joined, like MLG, for example, when they absorbed some other ones, they wanted the continuation rule and all these other things. Like, if we can build it on our own, we get to dictate how we are presented to people. You know what I mean? We can define our personality. And I feel like we're actually doing a great job of that so far. Like we're growing and everything, and we're still being able to maintain a lot of who we are. We get to keep our rules and stuff. And now you see a lot of groups like ESL, they picked up MKX, and David was actually there for the Fatal 8 doing commentary. And they asked a lot of things like, how do you guys normally do this? Would you like it to be 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 7? Or, they actually took a lot of feedback. And it's nice that we can actually get our established rules in there, like double elimination or these kind of things. We can maintain what the fighting game community knows and what we like if we continue to grow ourselves and become our own masters, basically. To put it in a weird way, but yeah. Basically, if we stay in charge of what the FGC is, we can maintain who we are, basically.
Speaking about some changes and things too, I know how before final round they had that Twitch tournament in Texas, and I was hearing a lot of good feedback about that. How they had, an area for the guys where they could just go back, they could practice.
Yeah.
They had some like lunches and stuff like that, just so you didn't have to leave. And I mean, that stuff is nice. I know. I just buy like food here, and I literally pack it in my bag, and then I just take it and I have it in my room, like, and I eat it as I go, because you're not going to be eating anything until like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But it's just convenient stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about the South by Southwest tournament, even though they did have that room for the players where they could practice and get food and stuff, everyone walked out and was hanging around all the crowd and the audience all the time anyway. You know what I mean? It wasn't like one of those things where we were literally cordoned off with ropes and you couldn't get access to the players and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, obviously it's nice to treat the players well, to give them food and sustenance and such. But, you know, it's also, I still like the fact that, you know, we were able to mingle with everybody and it was still very much a mixed environment. So.
Yeah, half of the reason I woke up early in the morning was to get those cookies.
Those cookies were good.
They were so good. I would wake up every morning just to get that white chip cookie and the chocolate chip. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm coming here to eat cookies, eat some lunch, and watch top players play in the back. Like, how much better do you want it at this point? So yeah, it was a great event.
That's cool.
See, this piques my interest about something, James. Obviously, you've been an enthusiast of competitive fighting games for quite a while. How do you? And I always ask people who are like labeled "quote unquote" OGs this, but I want to hear from your perspective also. How do you think fighting games and their events have changed and shifted? Hell, even the communities from back then, maybe about 15, 20 years to how it is now.
Man, I mean, because tournaments used to all just run in arcades, right? I mean, B4, B5, the two big tournaments before EVO, were just in an arcade up in Folsom, California, and it was just squashing a bunch of people. Southern Hills Golfland was one of the biggest arcades here in SoCal. I remember when one tournament we got like 64 people for Marvel. We were just like, oh my God, how did we get so big? We have 64 people. This is crazy, you know? But I mean, honestly speaking, like, I still remember before 2009, I honestly didn't think we would get to the point that we're at in my lifetime. You know, I really had that feeling in a lot of ways. But when 2009 happened and the grand finals came down to Daigo and Justin, and it was just like crazy, and Street Fighter 4 just kind of started this renaissance, like, it was amazing. I still remember after EVO was done, I was just sitting there like almost out of breath because of how crazy it was. And someone asked me, so what did you think of this year? And I was like, if you told me this is what it was going to be like just last year at EVO 2008, if you told me it was going to be like this, I wouldn't have believed you. And I feel like the growth that we've had is so much faster than I would have ever expected. And it's fantastic. I mean, I'm at an age where I'm always like, maybe I should just leave the fighting game community and it's time for me to just move on. But like now I'm at this point where I'm like, we're so close. Like, I got to do everything I can to try to make this work, because it's like now I got to strike while the iron's hot. So now I'm more involved in it than I ever have been, you know, but I feel like I'm in a unique position where I might be able to help it. So I feel like I gotta push this, you know what I mean? Because the growth has been so amazing. I would have never pictured this. If you asked me pre-2009 if we would be at the place that we're at, where they said EVO has 250,000 prizes in money to give out, like if you told me that was going to happen in 2015, I would have just laughed at you and been like, whatever, dude. But, you know, we're there and it's super exciting. I'm super happy about it.
Dio, do you have, I was going to say, if you had any input on this?
No, I think everything is going pretty well for the most part. It's really just about, you know, making sure that we allow new players in, and also reward the people that have been there for so long. So, you know, otherwise, if there's no reward and if there's no incentive to keep going, then you just start losing interest and just picking something else. You know, it has to be enjoyable. It has to have a sense of reward, whether it's monetary or just, you know, personal reward. I think that's just really necessary. But you also have to bring new players in the scene, and I think that the more you advertise it, the more you build up these rivalries and show people how exciting it can get on a grand scale, then it just makes everyone want to get involved. You know, actually, a funny story. So I went to go pay my cell phone bill like 2 weeks ago or so, and the guy at the counter saw my EVO shirt, and he's like, "Whoa, like you go to EVO?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh my God, I watched it. Like, I watched it for Smash. I love it so much and stuff." And you would never expect that to happen like 5 years ago, ever. Like, it happens all the time now. It's kind of scary. So I think that's great.
Yeah, that kind of also, I mean, one of the things that Adil touched on, you know, reminded me, it's like, that's another reason why I like to see the personal growth within the fighting game community, because not even just the players. Like, I of course, when players like PROG or Justin or whoever retire, I'd like to see them be able to move on forward to coaching position, analyst positions, commentator positions, but not even just the players, but guys like Spooky, guys like, Vi, Level Up, and, even all the smaller streamers, Panda X Gaming, all these guys. Like, if the fighting game community keeps building itself up, they're the ones who are going to get rewarded. You know what I mean? I'm scared that if we join an MLG or join some bigger corporation, they don't need.
It'll be like a conglomerate.
Yeah, because they don't. They have their own streamers. They have their own Seth Moosies and Boss Logics to make their trailers for them, and they've got all these guys. Like, I would rather see the FGC build itself up so that the people who put all this blood, sweat, and tears into it are the ones who get rewarded for it. So just like Adil said, it's like one of the reasons why I do this is because I want to see all these people who have all become my friends. I want to see them all succeed. You know what I mean? I want to see them all get rewarded for the work that they've put into this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't even, because right now it's like we're just kind of touching base on the big prize pools, and obviously not everyone can attain those prize pools. It's going to be usually the top 10 in the world, which is mostly Asian, and some sparkles here and there. But the important thing is to have it trickle down in other ways, streaming, just other ways where people can get involved and they won't feel like, okay, I'm wasting my time, or I think that I'm putting too much time. Like, everyone wants to have fun and get something out of it. So I think it's important for everyone. And that's part of what makes esports so popular with other games, is that there's not just one way to do things and get popular, I think.
If you guys had one thing to change about the current community as it is right now, from here to, going forward, what would it be and why?
That's a hard question.
For me,
very vague, I know, but
the number one issue that I have right now is a lot of and this is not even just an FGC problem. This is getting into a much bigger picture, but it's a lot of the gender issues that we do have in the FGC. I don't like the way that that a lot of girls and women that I talk to, they try to get into the FGC, but they have bad experiences, and so they want to leave it. They don't feel as welcome. Like, for example, every time Ricky gets on stream, I've gotten lots of people tweeting me and getting mad at me for using she and her when I just when I talk about Ricky. But
right.
I mean, that's what she wants. She she's transitioning and everything like that, so I'm going to respect that. And I get a lot of people yelling at me about that. I always know whenever Ricky gets on stream that the chat becomes vitriolic and all this other stuff like that. Whenever women come on the stream, like if Sherry's on stream, then all of a sudden people stop talking about the game. They start talking about her looks, or they spot women in the background and they start, who's that girl over there and stuff like that. That kind of, I would like to see the FGC become a lot more friendly for gender. I mean, the FGC is wonderful for racially diversity right now compared to most competitive games. But we have the same problem as a lot of the other games, which is the gender issue. So that's probably the main thing that I would like to see somehow fixed. But again, that problem spans way beyond the FGC. That's just internet culture, gaming culture, everything. So there's a lot to be done there. So.
Yeah, and everyone knows the story of the stream chat. I think a lot of it is just going to happen no matter what game you play or what's going on. It's going to be that one person always that starts it, right? So the important thing is to just not let it get to you at that point. Like, I know it's there, but you can't control it, and there's always going to be someone that wants to break the rules. So it's like, well, you can't get too hard on the stream because then no one's going to have fun. So I think a lot of that, even though it's bad, just the fact that the chat gets engaged, it just creates hype in general, regardless of the topic. So just I guess the important thing is just to not let it affect you, because chat is the chat. You just keep it in a containment area and just let it sit there.
And also a lot of these people are just saying these things and they would never dare even say it to your face.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're hiding behind a fake account. You don't know where they are, whatever it is, and it is what it is.
Yeah, moving forward, we just have to kind of make sure to clean up, and not just for ourselves, but got to keep our friends and our other acquaintances in check as well. The bystander effect is actually more harmful than what some people think. You know, if you stand there and do nothing, whether it's, you know, not wanting to do something positive or negative, it's still basically a negative thing if you just let it stick around, let it perpetuate. Mr. Keebler, he said the FGC is a very accepting group, and not just meaning about race and gender. We're all friendly, yeah, but it's also very accepting of letting bad and unpleasant people stick around. Like we have way too many people just kind of doing their own thing because we let them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about how terrible the stream chat is and everything like that. I mean, to be honest with you, it's so much a part of the FGC culture now that, you know, if I could snap my fingers and get rid of it right now, I wouldn't, because I feel like that would change so much of, you know, how our community interacts and everything like that. Is there anything we could do to police it a little bit more? Maybe, but I mean, right now, a lot of that I think also comes on Twitch, because right now everyone can just create 7,000 accounts.
Yeah.
If there was a little bit more, you know, responsibility, like if you got your account banned from a specific channel, if there was more repercussions of that, it might be a little bit easier. But the power, the anonymity power of Twitch right now is a little bit too strong, I think. So I mean, it'll come with time. It'll come with time.
Yeah, I think in the next 2 years we'll start seeing improvements. It's just everyone's kind of transitioning to this whole Twitch phase where everything is on Twitch. You know, before it's like, oh, well, you just had your big majors. Now it's every mom and pop tournaments on Twitch, and everyone's getting at least 500 viewers in their tournaments. So I think as it gets bigger and bigger, you're going to see more regulations come out of it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see where it goes. Katie, why did you kick Buffalo's ass? He's in the chat and he's like, you kicked his ass at last year's Rumble in the Tundra.
What? Wait, let me see. See, because I don't put the chat on sometimes. So
he said women are no less of gamers than men. Hell, Katie kicked my ass up and down the street at last year's Rumble in the Tundra. See, I told you you're getting better. You deserve it.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
But no, I mean, just, you know, my brief, you know, explanation of my experience with it. When I first started out, and especially if I would have my headset on and, you know, people would hear my voice, you know, there would be a whole lot more heckling and messages and whatnot. You still get heckling and messages either way, you know, even on Facebook too. The fact that from what I have personally experienced is people talk a lot. They don't do a thing at the tournaments. You know, they'll say all kinds of stuff and then you'll recognize them and you'll see them. They don't, you know, and I'm not saying, hey, I want you to do something, but what I am saying is people say a lot, and then I think sometimes even they're trying to vent out something,
Right.
and it's their own way of doing it. But at the same time, you know, it's not just our community with, in general, ways of expressing themselves like that. Like first-person shooters, they talk like that with each other on their teams. You know, like, hey, asshole.
Right.
You better do a better job or we're going to replace you with somebody else, you know? So it's not just us. It's just, I have a feeling it's just that whole freedom of speech and, you know, it can hurt people's feelings, you know, you know, and really at the end of the day, we can't control that stuff directly, but hopefully later on people will start feeling a little bad for saying stuff like that and they'll kind of rein it in themselves.
One of the interesting things is just that it's just in the culture in general, it's hard to really realize that people are real people, you know, in a lot of ways. Like,
Yeah.
when you're it's funny because like you said, when you're online and when you're in chats or whatever, it's easy to talk shit about somebody, be like, oh, this guy's an idiot, or I hate this guy, like whatever, all this stuff like that.
Right.
You know, like people will like say really horrible things about me, and like, oh, I hate James Chen, he's such an idiot or whatever like that. And you know, and I'm like, why would you say this about me? But then like I was watching basketball and I was like, God, I hate this coach. You know, I wish he would like die in a fire. And you know, holy crap, I'm doing the same thing. You know, it's just like when you don't realize they're people, it's very easy to get into that mentality. But when you see them in person and you realize they're very human, you know, and they're there, and you know, it's all of a sudden
it dawns on you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it changes how you kind of perceive them. It's even happened before. Like I've seen threads where people are just like saying all these mean things about me. Then I jump in the thread, and then they're always like, "Oh, well, you know, I didn't really mean it that way," you know, kind of things like that. So you know, it's different. It's different when it's easy to perceive someone as not being a real human at first. You know, so.
I think people also don't understand. Like, I feel like people just want to test to see how much they can get away with too.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot harder to deal with 3 or 4 years ago. I think everyone that was somewhat rowdy now was really rowdy back then. I don't want to name names, but you guys know who they are. And
Right.
you know, they toned down a lot. But before, man, like we would push people to the limit.
Yeah.
Even top players and like people that were known would even say some nasty stuff, and it was like, but now you don't see that as much anymore. It's very, very toned down. So I think people are just kind of understanding what they can and can't get away with, and what's acceptable as a joke, and what's like actually hurting people's feelings.
Yeah, what's going too far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I still like the trash talk. Like I thought what K-Brad did at Texas with Snake Eyes was brilliant. You know, the created thing into the camera and all that stuff. But you know, I like that, and I want to keep that. But you know, as long as it stays within the game and it's not serious, you know, and like people don't want to hurt each other or anything like that. I like rivalries. Like I like that kind of thing. Even if two people genuinely don't like each other and they really want to beat each other, as long as they keep it within the game, I'm all for that kind of rivalry and stuff. So, you know.
Speaking of Showdown too, like you notice how much of a hype bucket that was. It was extending beyond the players at that point. You had me coaching against Hamad. You had me coaching against Infiltration, even though I sponsored him for that tournament, and like everyone was just making comments about it. It was just ridiculous, you know. It's like, who does that? It's really awkward, you know. And because you know, me and Daryl are really good friends, and so I actually just got up on stage because I was like, you know what? No one coaches Daryl ever. I'm just gonna go and just sit next to him. And I didn't even really coach him. I was just like talking. Like when he had to play Gustavo, Hamad went to go coach Gustavo, and then when Daryl was playing, we were just laughing about how stupid the moves looked. Like he would just talk about something, and he would just look at me, and he's like, "Man, that move looks stupid, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that move looks really dumb." And then like just like something small like that can just change someone's mentality so much when they play. Even like when he was playing against Infiltration. Like Daryl has this thing where like when he gets hit by a DP out of nowhere, he like makes this noise, and I started noticing it. Like he like makes like a breathing noise, and I'm like Daryl, are you doing? He's like, what?
Hey man, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, like I coached him against Infiltration, but against like Gustavo and stuff, we were just laughing about stuff. It was and even Infiltration was having fun with it. He's like, yeah, man, I don't care. Like, it's all fun. Like, I actually liked that you were doing that. It was kind of cool, you know? It just made the set so much better. Like, the quality of play at the grand finals was ridiculous.
Oh, so good. It was so... I mean, everyone kept saying it was one of the best grand finals they'd seen in a long time, so...
Yeah, no, it was really energetic, really hype. Yeah. So...
Yeah, especially...
I like what K-Brad's doing though. I think that what he's doing with the rivalry with Snake and like just his own like persona, I think it works well, because it's like a very honest way of doing it. Like he actually like what he says is actually kind of what he really means, you know. But it's in a very like honest, like kind of respectful way, like in a very like controlled way.
He's not being mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
He's not being mean. You can tell he's not being hateful or mean about it. Because, like, you talk to K-Brad, and he's, like, the nicest guy. Like, he is one of my favorite guys to talk with and hang out with and stuff. So, but, yeah, I mean, there is honesty to a lot of the trash talk that he says, and that's good as long as, you know, he just does it because, I mean, he speaks his mind, but as long as he's not being mean about it, I think that's great. So.
Oh, yeah. Like, he's doing a good job. Like, even if you ask him, like, if you tell him, like, you know, I don't think you're that good, he'll be like, yeah, I know I'm not that good. Like, he's like very honest about it. He's like, yeah, I know I suck. I want to get better. Like, he doesn't suck, of course, but like he's like very honest about the way he says things. And even if he pretty much the same criticisms we say about him and his gameplay, he kind of acknowledges. It's just kind of cool. It's like, okay, you know where you're at, you know where to improve, and that's how you become a top player. You know, you have to understand your
working on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat is asking how we feel about Stunfest, the grand finals from Stunfest.
Oh,
can we talk about that desk combo video right quick?
Honestly, when I first saw that match live, when I was watching it, I'm like, this is one of the top 5 Street Fighter 4 sets of all time. No questions asked. Like, you've never seen play of that caliber, I think, at any tournament in the history of the game.
Yeah.
So,
dude, when Momochi ultra the whiffed hurricane kick, like the whiff short hurricane kick, and he ultra 2'd it with Ken, I was like, what the hell? Like, how can you even punish that with an ultra 2? But yeah, I mean, it was really good. I mean, I know I've said on my show, like, the Daigo combo was nice and all that, but, you know, at that point, I felt like Daigo was definitely styling for the audience because, you know, Daigo has talked about it that he wants to be more entertaining these days and stuff. And I think most of us knew the combo wasn't going to kill. He probably would have been better off saving the meter. But, you know, it was awesome to see him do that. So, I mean, to be able to just say, you know what, I feel like styling now, and then to be able to pull it off, you know, that's a very unique kind of player to be able to pull something like that off.
I also think at the level of play those guys play at, that psychological impact something like that has is too important. Like, even though you're burning resources and logically doesn't make sense, it makes sense in the grand scheme of things why he's doing it. It's just it just leaves like this impression on you, and you're like, wow, like, this guy is on point. I have to go back to character select and think. Like,
right. Yeah.
And that changes the dynamic of everything. So, you know, it was really awesome to see that kind of play, and it just made me kind of sad. I'm like, you know, like, I have some reservations about the game right now, but it's just like, man, when I watch that, it's like, I want to play like that. It's so clean. It's so clean.
Yeah.
The amount of adaptations in that, even in that one singular match, was just completely breathtaking.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about it is, like you said, it was, you know, doing that big old combo is like a good psychological damage to your opponent, and most people probably would have been affected by it to take a set from that combo, but Momochi just came right back at him. It was just so cool to see, you know. He like wasn't phased at all, and it was so cool.
See. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll say it.
No, I was gonna say that performing like something like that, and this goes back to what we were talking about moving ahead, but not becoming like truly esports, because let's say you weren't Daigo, but you were doing that combo, and then you just felt the crowd roaring, just like right behind you. It's not only psychologically damaging your opponent, it's giving you a boost as well.
Yeah.
It's this sort of that sixth sense, like, higher plane type stuff, man.
There was one tournament. It was a NorCal Regionals, and I think it was Soul Calibur 5, where it was grand finals, and one player was being really cocky, and he started winning, right? And a bunch of the guys from SoCal were like, we don't like this guy. So they just started like cheering against him and like being really loud on stage, and it affected the match. It turned the match around, and the other guy ended up winning. And you know what? A lot of people might be like, well, that sucks or whatever. No, dude, I think that's what you got. That's what you're gonna deal with. That's how it's gotta work. You know what I mean? That's why even in sports, home court advantage works, right? Because the audience is there and stuff cheering you on. So, you know, I love that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What were you saying?
Every little factor helps. Well, I'll tell you something funny that I want to talk about because Infiltration, he was here in Texas for a week and we hung out a lot. And one of the things that he told me, he's like, it's really difficult for me to play in America sometimes because no one cheers for me. And and like he doesn't take it personal. Like he understands why it's like that, but he also says that it's psychologically affects him because he knows he has to beat not only like a top player in front of him, he has to beat the entire crowd behind him.
Yeah.
And
that's sad.
that can be like a psychological factor, and it's just it's interesting.
Momochi said this same thing because I remember it was an AE. He played Yun for a while, and he switched to Cody eventually because he said that he went back to Ken or he switched to Cody. I don't remember, but he said it because when he played Yun at Evo, people were booing him, and he was just like, I don't like this. I don't want to be booed. So he switched to another character,
I think I heard the same exact story from Cien also. I think Cien also played Yun, and I think he was getting booed a lot, and he went to Gen. I think I remember hearing that. Yeah. So I think at one point Cien was playing Yun in the game, and then he told me like 3 years ago or so. He said that like this was when Yun was broken, and he was just like, I was getting booed too much, so I just wanted to change characters and go from there. It's interesting. I mean, we're all human, right? So no one's a robot, like except maybe Daigo, but like everyone else is. Yeah, so it's like everyone is susceptible to it. I feel like everyone that actually puts out their personality in some way, like Infiltration has a personality now. All of these top players have personalities, and everyone that kind of tries to entertain people, they're all affected by anything that's against them. And it only takes a few players that are really mechanical. Like Daigo, I think Momochi's pretty mechanical. Like I know it probably affects them, but not to that level. I think.
Yeah, they try not to let it show.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I know one of the guys who lives in Japan right now, originally from NorCal, Kim1234. He always complains about the Japanese players not having as much personality as a lot of the other players. Like I noticed like Infiltration and GamerBee came over to the States and they instantly just like felt the FGC kind of personality, but. It's been a little like I think out of all the Japanese players right now, like Tokido, maybe Koji KOG, and maybe Kazunoko are really starting to get into it.
Oh yeah. Tokido especially. I think Tokido is like the forerunner, and he's like conditioning all the rest of the Japanese to like be more American. Like you have Tokido, especially with what happened at Red Bull. The comments he made against Bonchan were just ridiculous. But it's so unexpected, right? It's like, wow, I did not expect this to come out of him. Like it's like this American style of confidence, but it was really interesting because you don't expect Japanese to do that.
Well, then you have Punko taking his shirt off all the time.
Hey man, Punko and Smug at NCR was one of my most hype matches. I was like, when you put these two on the stage, something nuts is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna get destroyed. It's not gonna be a close match. One of them is gonna get destroyed. Period. And then the psychological factor outside of it is gonna be ridiculous.
Then wasn't it at Shadowloo Showdown? It was Punko versus the El Fuerte, the Japanese El Fuerte player. I forgot his name. He's so cool. He's such a nice guy.
Peppadai.
Yeah.
He's got a really good personality too. I mean, when they flew him in for what was an ECT? It was TFC. It was his first time here, and he was in and out getting cigarettes, and he was just really laid back. And
he was a great guy. Like we even started talking like pretty quick, and I was like, man, he's like one of the Japanese that actually likes to talk and like socialize a bit. So that was really cool. And he was fun. really accepting of casuals too. A lot of the elite Japanese, you don't really get to play them outside of the tournament often. But with Epide, it was like, oh, you just want to play him first to 10, first to 20, he'll play you. Yeah, and I like that.
I think it's also a lot of the top Japanese players that are sponsored. It is their job, and they take it very seriously. Weren't you the one that was telling me, Adil, that like if you took them out to try to go drinking the night before, like they might consider it like sabotage or something?
Yeah, they're really serious. They're really serious. Even at South by Southwest, they were really like on point. Like I went to Taquito's room and Daigo was just like passed out on the bed sleeping, and so me and Taquito were playing long sets. But even then, they didn't like stay out late. They went to bed early. they think of it as a mission. And like when I talk to Taquito, sometimes he gets really upset at his losses, very very upset. You know, when he lost to Bonchan at Red Bull, he was very upset about that. And he's like, you know, like I'm not good enough. Like I need to be stronger, better. And they're just really, really, they take it really personal, and they take their performance really seriously. So it's interesting, you know, and yeah, it's hard to be like that though. It's really hard to get in that zone where you're just only thinking about your performance and only looking to perform well. I'm pretty sure that he wasn't happy with his performance at final round either. You know, he got like 25th or something.
Right.
And but final round was just a killer tournament.
Yeah, that was a crazy tournament.
Yeah.
And Arturo did phenomenally.
Oh my god.
My God, I know. I was watching that. I was like, wow, this is completely off the hook. Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, it's funny because Arturo always credits playing Under Night in Birth for being so good at Dhalsim now, because his reactions and his speed has improved thanks to that game. And it's just a testament to playing multiple games, how much it actually helps. I think that's one of the things a lot of players have lost these days, especially like just last night when I was watching SCR Prelude. You see all these people, like when Street Fighter or MK are on, they're just like, the stream chat is just nothing but Street Fighter versus MK. Like, oh, your game is ass, your game is ass. You know? Like, dude, play both games, dude. Play both games, and you will see the kinds of skills that each game brings to you, and your game will improve in both of them if you play both of these games. You know, and it's a shame that there is that my game versus your game mentality. You know, I'd like to see people play more games because I think that would benefit them a lot.
Oh yeah, it opens your brain up, because you know, even Street Fighter 4 is honestly a very limiting game. Like it's not limiting in neutral, but it's limiting by just the way it works. You know, the matchups are kind of defined, and you can only do certain things. Sometimes you can break out of the bubble, sometimes you can't. But when you play like that too long, it's like you get conditioned into things. And sometimes you just have to either pick another character or play a different game to learn new things in general. Like there's actually a good example from yesterday at the MK tournament. I feel like a lot of MK players, they don't really understand how fireballing works. They don't understand the concept of like footsie fireballs and like that neutral fireball game that's like so prevalent in Street Fighter. And I was explaining that concept to all of them. I'm like, look, this is how it works. They're not used to it because, you know, you can duck projectiles don't trade. But it's like, how do you even learn something like that if you don't play Street Fighter? You can't, you know? And then, so when I was explaining that to them, they were starting to get it, and they're like, wow, like, we didn't understand this before. And if we played Street Fighter, we would have. Like, if I played MK more, I would have learned, like, probably my offense would be better than it is right now. Because I think that's a more offensive game in general. But
I remember when Marvel first came out, just the vanilla Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was around when Super was out. And I would go to Wednesday night fights. I would do decently in Super. Then Marvel came out, and I stopped playing Street Fighter. I just really wanted to get good at Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And I played the hell out of that game. And I never got good at Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But then I would play Street Fighter in the tournaments, and it was like the best I had ever done, like during Super Street Fighter 4, was when I wasn't playing it and I was only playing Marvel. Just because it like changed my brain around, and it like made my reactions better, and I started playing, like I just had a different brain at that point, and it just made it that much stronger. So even though I hadn't touched Street Fighter at all, I got better by playing another game, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's
like
so helpful.
Marvel is like the kind of game that rewards confidence. Like you have to be confident when you play. And Street Fighter is the same thing, actually. You have to be confident to win. Like if you play someone like Daigo, you will not beat him sitting back. Like you have to fight him. Like there's no way around it. Like when I played him like 25 games and I lost like 15 of them, I was like, okay, this idea that I had of sitting back and like turtling and trying to play footsie is not working against someone like that.
Right.
But then it's like, how do you even learn how to change that? You just have to kind of play a game that teaches you that, or just have the will to do it yourself.
Right.
I know at final round, I was in the Daigo line, and I got to play him. And my first match against him, it was absolutely horrible. And Adil says, "You can't out turtle Daigo." I was like, son of a gun. So then I started to go just like doing real stupid, really aggressive stuff, and it actually, I almost got around. I was like, oh my God, you know. But yeah, you have to sort of, I don't know. He just is so solid.
He makes you play Street Fighter. That's what it is.
Huh? Yeah.
He makes you play Street Fighter, and it's really hard to play someone like a lot of. I'd say 95% of the players you play will not make you play Street Fighter
Yeah.
like that way he does, and it just brings out the good of the game.
Yeah.
Until you get hit by a low forward and you lose half your life. But outside of that, the rest of it is good stuff.
Yeah, Street Fighter 4 does have one thing that's different than a lot of other Street Fighter games is, the whole vortex thing. There, you can actually do well with certain characters by being a training mode monster, and you don't learn a lot of those fundamentals. And then when you run into a player like Momochi or Daigo or Justin or Ricky, and they just have fundamentals for days, and all of a sudden none of your, vortex or shenanigans are working, that's when you just see, that's like Adil said, that's when you really have to learn to play Street Fighter. You can't rely on tricks anymore. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like when all your tricks get neutralized, and it's like, what now? It's like, you just gotta fight me, or pick Forte. You can choose one or the other. Like, you pick Forte or you fight me. Like, at that point, you just kind of get to that level, and it's just great playing.
All right, I'm gonna learn Forte now.
You can always just wait for Street Fighter 5 when La Fuerta is released.
Yeah.
Forte? Yeah.
Dude, me and David joke about that so much. Like, there'd be so many good Hakan players right now if Hakan was like female and like super hot and oiled up and stuff like that. But like, because how he looks right now, no one uses him. It's so sad because I still think Hakan is amazing. I still think he's an amazing character. No one uses him just because he's ugly and has blue hair and stuff. So,
Yeah, I was so disappointed with how he designed it because I remember hearing about Hakan as a leak. It came out as a leak like a few weeks before he was announced or something.
Right.
And the only thing I heard about him was that he was an Arab character. And I was like, oh my God, he's an Arab character. He's going to be like 6 and have like a turban or something. And I was like excited. I was like, I'm going to play this character. Then when they unveiled him, I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, I don't want to touch this character with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, man. So, I mean, are you excited about that new Tekken character? Was he?
Oh yeah, what's his name?
Yeah,
I forgot.
Hamad. Yeah, Hamad's in the game now. So like, it's interesting. I bought Hamad the Tekken 7 character, like from Crystal. What's that bead shop? I'm sorry, Dynamic Custom Beadworks. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
he had the new Tekken 7 character, the bead version of it at Final Round, and I bought it for Hamad, and I was like, Hamad, look, I got you this. You can just wear this on your neck now, and you could just rock that. But I think it's great. I'm glad that they put like an actual Arab, like from the actual heritage, like the clothing and the design. It just this is great to see that representation there, and it would be nice to see stuff like that trickle down to Street Fighter more. I mean, because Street Fighter, you add a jury, it's like the Koreans,
right?
Like a Korean representation. So when you're playing a game that's like the World Warrior fighting games, you have to have everything.
Yeah. That's what I always liked. I mean, that's why I like even like characters like Armika, because there is that Japanese Wrestling Federation for females, in Japan. It's a real thing. I always prefer those kind of fighters, like when they're based off of something real, so you do get that world representation. I do like where Tekken 7's going, that they added the Filipina character, and, they're trying to cover all the different areas that a lot of them haven't been covered yet in fighting games. So it'd be cool if Street Fighter 5 did something like that, because it really is about this world tournament. So let's get more, fight, and let's please not make it so that you name all of El Fuerte's moves after Mexican food, please. Don't do this anymore. Let's be a little more sensitive than this.
There's gonna be a Chinese chef gonna have like General Tso's chicken.
Curry crunch.
Curry crunch. Yeah.
Curry bombs and stuff. Egg roll splashes. Never know what's gonna come out.
His ultras are gonna be called like beef and broccoli and like. Oh man.
Kung Pao.
The Kung Pao Pow driver. There you go, Katie.
That's the ultra combo right there. Kung Pao Pow driver. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
He's the guy that makes the noodles in the background that goes on.
Guys, well, we got a hell of a lot of information out today. It was good talking with the both of you. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off here, guys? Let's start with you, Adil.
Well, if you're in the market for a monitor or HDTV, please visit DisplayLag.com. No, but seriously, I'm going to be testing a lot of 2015 sets, hopefully this week.
Okay.
I haven't had the newer models up yet, so I'm going to be putting that information out. So if people are in the market for TVs or monitors, I'll be hopefully posting that information this week. So other than that, just shout outs to everyone, to you guys running the show, and Houston FGC, James Chen, Ultra David, everyone that knows what they do. So yeah, that's about it.
All right, you, Mr. James Chen.
I'll take the opportunity to plug DisplayLag.com.
James crashed my site, man. Like I'm literally like top 8 in MKX, and then I think what was it? Avaya or Hobby came to me. He's like, James Chen crashed your site, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to log in. I can't do anything. Like James Chen just bombarded.
Dude, no, because I've used the site. Like I got myself a nice large size TV, has no lag. It's beautiful, and I never would have found it without DisplayLag and without a deal. The site is fantastic. So yeah, definitely.
Thanks, man. I'm glad you're happy with it. Yeah, because you were texting me back and forth, and they're like, "Yeah, get it," and you're like, "I don't know," and I'm like, "Yeah, get it."
I'm so happy. I'm so happy I can play games on it. So yeah. Because it was before, like my older TV had really terrible lag, and so like I would have friends come over who didn't play video games a lot, and they would see this tiny 23-inch monitor placed in front of like this 50-inch TV, and we're playing on this small TV, and they're like, "What in the world are you doing?" And like explain to them what's going on. So
That's funny.
But yeah, no, I'm super happy with that. But yeah, I mean, also follow, I guess, me on Twitter, JChenzor, and Ultra Chen TV. We always do the show on Tuesdays, around the same time you guys have done your show, the Media TV. So, but yeah, go ahead and follow Twitter at Ultra Chen TV. We always do like the Tuesday show. And recently we finally stopped canceling all of our Monday shows, and we've actually been doing stuff. So, like, I think tomorrow, Choi Sauce is going to be on. We're going to be doing some Guilty Gear Xrd character tutorials and stuff like that. So,
nice.
Check that out. Yeah.
What about you, Kate?
Yeah, what about you, Miss Katie?
Yeah,
I'll put you on the spot.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. A lot of good clarification, on what's going on, things that we can look forward to, and not even just in the patches and what we're going to be doing with future mods, but in addition, Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
That's some great stuff, and hopefully we're going to be seeing a lot of progress moving forward. So good stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool.
How about you, Bobby?
Well, I was getting to it. Again, I just want to give shout outs to everybody who joined in here, and I actually want to announce that we just passed the 200 follower milestone on this channel. So
Awesome.
Again, thank you guys for sticking with us and all of that. Thank you for those who sent in questions and were really active in the chat tonight. It was a really pleasurable experience interacting with all of you and interacting with our guests here, Mr. FourWude and Jay Chenzor. I will be uploading this episode tonight, so you can either catch it on the archive or whenever I have it on YouTube. I will have the Twitter handles and also the websites and Twitch, the credentials and all that stuff in the descriptions below. Because these guys are really great. I think we're going to be doing Meet a Burn probably on Sundays from now on, just for we don't conflict with Ultra Chen TV or any other shows that might be wanting to broadcast around that, because we all want to help each other out. So, so in that case, the next session would be on the 21st. So 2 weeks from now, 9 p.m. as always. We'll be announcing our guests a week down the road. Be sure to follow Me to Burn if you haven't already on Twitch by bopping that follow button. Follow us on Twitter, Me to Burn TV, and there's also a link to our Facebook fan page if you are not a fan of either of those sites. Just stay in the know. And again, we'll have our archive up probably tomorrow morning. Because this might be a lengthy file to upload with my crap internet. But hey. Again, guys, We're going to be signing off right now. Again, thank you to everyone who has participated so far. As for me, I am so thankful. For Katie, Mr. James Chen, Adil, and I, see you guys soon.
Thanks for having us on. So.
Bye. We'll see
Bye.
ya.
I mean, like, again, like, I mean, I don't really care, just as long as it's not, like, conflicting with my work schedule, because, like, when we used to do it, like, before my schedule changed, like, it was, like, we kind of had to cut it short, because I'm only going to get about, like, 5 hours of sleep for work the next morning. Now, Tuesday, like, if we were to still have it on Tuesday, that wouldn't be, you know, a problem. But now we have other people to... Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, Tuesday. I hate to say it, 2 days a no-go. I was thinking Thursday, because like I don't think anything pretty much goes on. Yeah, the CMU can Thursdays. Yeah. Oh my god. Like, maybe Sunday might be the better option. Oh no! Wait. So, damn it. Mondays. Well, I now work early on Tuesday.